everybody. Today we'll talk about Kol Nidre. I've got a request to talk about this movement. Before we begin, I just want to say that my new CD, including the Chopin and Grieg cello sonatas, is being released this July, and I will add a link. I hope you will consider buying it. And let's get started. So Yom Kippur is the holiest day for Jewish people, and this Kol Nidre prayer is sang at the beginning of the service, leading to that day of atonement. And the mood is of repentance. We are preparing for the Day of Atonement, and for that we have to be released from the bindings that we put ourselves in. And I saw something interesting while surfing and looking for the exact explanation, and it said that one cannot meet the divine light if one is not released from one's bad habits. The congregate, the person that prays, is asking that God cancels in advance any personal or religious oath made upon him or herself for the next year, so as to preemptively, so beforehand, avoid the sin of breaking the promises that he might make to God, which cannot be kept. And this Kol Nidre prayer is at first very introspective, and you will see where it becomes more outwardly, and there's a big cry soon. So let's start in the beginning. So I like to, again, what I talk about quite a bit is slowing my vibrato, having that inflection of that color of more and less. So the C sharp will get a narrower and perhaps slower vibrato than the D in this case. There is also an accent on the D, so more vibrato and less vibrato. And again, same thing on the C sharp going to the A. And here I like to, although we have the accent on the A, I like to give a little more vibrato to the C sharp because the line is going up. As you will see, from A to C sharp is going up. And of course, you should add slides and shifts, audible shifts, where you think right. This is not the place to play cleanly. This is a place to find expressive fingerings, and that means using the same finger for consecutive notes sometimes. So here I use 1-1, and again 4-4 on the F and the E. It's a sort of a cry here. And here we go to a lower octave. You want to show that difference in timbre. Here is the rabbi with a big beard, the baritone that is singing, and I try to visualize perhaps something like that. Again, I like shifting from the F to the E. Each syllable here gets its own enunciation a little bit, with a little separation of the bow. And then again, a different voice, the higher voice, less earthly, more divine maybe. And I like shifting on my first finger. And here. And wait a little little bit before you play the 30-second notes. Vibrato on each note. And so if we compare those two phrases and here, obviously here the composer added the D. Here it's unadorned, so we have G, C, B flat, A, and here we don't have just G, C. We have the D. So that gives us it's a bit more expressive. So I will bring out that D. I like shifting and playing this on the G string. When we see fast notes in a slow movement, we also have to take it into consideration. Sometimes it doesn't mean play everything in tempo. It means stretching the beat to allow for that kind of melismatic effect. And this is one of those examples. And then a sudden cry. It's as if a person is at first talking to God quietly, praying, and suddenly there's a cry of anguish, of crying to God, please help me. So. To that more inward pain, and the transition between that outward cry and the inward pain happens on the F and the E. So notice how your vibrato can reflect that. You should have more amplitude on the F. Relaxing and a shorter amplitude on the E, and then here sometimes I use more air in the bow, meaning less pressure, more this kind of sound. The congregation played by the piano, a question by the congregation, and then the single person, maybe the rabbi, answers. And again, that's the tutti, the congregation or the piano's part. And then another answer by an individual. So really helps to think about it as the piano giving us a big question, we answer, and again, question by the piano, and we answer again. And then we're going on. Here we have FC, growing to AC, and then finally C to C. So obviously, the bigger the interval has, the more kavana. Kavana is a word in Hebrew meaning more. It has more meaning. You're saying it with more force, with more meaning. So. like playing those dotted rhythms quite crisp, at least giving a little oomph for clarity with my pinky. It's a tricky position here on the D string. You can. That's a little too open for me, so. And a little lift between letter C, between the Fs. I also shift into the F. I guess I use the thumb on the C. And here show that big interval again. A little dramatic accent there. So I start a little slow and catch up towards the end of that scale. So 2 bars before letter D, I like to take a little retake on the up bow. That gives me a better chance to play that lower D louder. And again, another shift here. Let me talk a little bit about those shifts. So this particular shift is has a lot of meat. It's a dramatic shift. So really want to hear the little oomph around the G sharp already. So there's a slowing down of the bow, and then a faster bow on the A. It's almost an accent, softer accent. So this triplet, I really feel that each leg of the triplet should get its full value. So stretch it a little bit. So and here I start my trill a little slower and get it faster as I go. This gives an opportunity for another opportunity for expression. If you sit a little bit, you start that trill a little slower, it has more meaning. And here we get to the appassionato. So I like taking D a little faster. It is almost written in the music. The piano is doing a tremolo there, I think. And here I feel it's breathless. You can try and breathe when you play it too, in those spots where we are gasping for air almost. Here. It's an example of a place where it's much easier to play a harmonic, but it's much more effective not to. So, try if you can vibrate on that A and not play. I know that it's been done, people do it, it's still beautiful. But perhaps something like that is more effective in my opinion, because the A is really the top of that phrase. And the resignation happens only here, perhaps on the D. I pluck the string with your pinky here. And a little glissando into the A. It's a very Jewish sounding spot. So here I like to play on the C string. It's been a while since I played it, so excuse my intonation. How do we hit that D? Slide on the old bow. So if you play your A on the down bow, you hear your way to the D. When you get to the D, you change to the up bow. Of course, we don't hear it that much when we play in tempo, but this is how you should practice it. Much more effective, in my opinion, than playing on the G string. You can also do that, of course, but it's a totally different color, and it adds a lot. Going on, the sun is shining at letter E, and we should reflect this in our entrance. Here is a place to have that shimmering vibrato. It's fast and narrow. Espressione, so don't be stingy with your vibrato. And fast, I mean, don't be too lazy there. There are ways to measure vibrato with a metronome. When you practice at home, you should be able to hear the oscillations. So pop, 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 pop. That's a round trip. And someone asked me to talk about vibrato. There's a wonderful video, Paul Katz is talking about vibrato on cello bellow. You can check that video out. Again, I like to change. Don't play D, F, and then D, E, F the same way. So more here. So the second F is within the crescendo. It should be more vibrato, and more sound. The vibrato should reflect your dynamic changes. So the height of that phrase is the G. And here you can relax your vibrato after you reach the G, going back down. And another very expressive shift. Another way to shift is by sliding on your first finger from E to about F sharp. And then from F sharp, you just play with a third finger. So the difference would be sliding all the way on the same finger or changing the fingers and sliding from above. When we have such a large shift and we want to play it on the A string, you don't have to, of course, you could play it. But that large shift is more dramatic than if you cross your strings. Then we have to really release the bow, and so there's a sort of a whistle between the two Bs. And again, we hear the note when we get to the Bs. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of crossing strings there. And then after letter G, after all this turmoil, we are resigned. A little heavier, slower, and more tired vibrato. This is pretty slow. And then again that ethereal sound, the high, the timbre that is a little more divine. This is it. I hope you enjoyed the lesson today, and I will see you next time.